Even, Mr. Phillips, we'll start with you, and then Elizabeth, and then we'll work our way down that way. Okay, the economy. This was actually number 2 on our list. Healthcare was number 1. Number 2 on our list was the economy. So these are the thoughts we would like to express to you. What measures would you support to create jobs in America? How would you reduce outsourcing and offshore manufacturing? Please respond to reducing the foreign aid and increasing tariffs, especially to countries with severe trade deficits. And the last part of this question is, what is your stand on giving tax breaks to companies who manufacture offshore and pay no federal income taxes like General Electric and Cisco? Okay, so would you please address as many of those topics as you could, please?
So my personal view on the deficit is, though it is a booming large deficit, but there are reasons for it, right? The wars, as stated, the big loopholes of the tax corporations that can take their business abroad, offshore, their banks, pay no income tax, have their products made abroad, and able to bring it back here and maximize their profits. So immediately we would have to stop, because we would have to stop all those tax havens. So also the trade policy that was passed, NAFTA, GATT, his thing, when it was in the beginning, people debated, the unions on one side, many of the corporations on the other side, but I believe there's enough time now, and I hope that we the people can see that they did not favor the working class. They favored the corporations. It took the jobs away and made lives, for example, it made lives miserable for people in Mexico and here. So if elected, I would repeal NAFTA and GATT. I would want the product made here, right? If you have a t-shirt that's made here, we could sell it here, the small businessmen can profit from it. This is what's going to build the economy. And then also we would have to stop the budget cuts. Every time you cut, when the hospital is closed, think about all the workers that are laid off. So yes, we want to generate jobs by creating jobs. Also, we want to stop the bleed, the cuts. As you stop the cuts, we can have more policemen, more teachers, more hospital workers. Yes, that was all.
Okay, that was a mouthful. Ms. Rowley, would you be so kind as to...
Sure. I think if we look at what's happening right now in Europe and how many of the European countries within the European Union are feeling a very tough economy right now. It's all over the papers. And things have gotten worse. And they've been practicing austerity. They haven't been spending. What we've done here, we're now getting out of the worst recession since the Greatest Depression. One thing that Obama and our representatives in Congress did was put together a stimulus plan. Although it wasn't the best plan, it was a good plan that did put people back to work. And we're starting to see more and more people going to work. We need to invest in jobs. We need to use money. And hopefully it's money that we're saving, not spending in Afghanistan. We're spending billions of dollars there every month, which we could be using here in America to create good jobs. We could create construction jobs by investing in our infrastructure. And here in New York City, where we have a very, I would say, dense urban area, many people in the country live in metropolis-type areas. We say 80% of our populations are. But if you look at the transportation budget in Congress, 80% of it is spent on highways and bridges outside of urban centers. We need to make sure that we follow our tax dollars and that we get those transportation dollars here in New York City, investing in mass transit and investing in other infrastructure projects. Right now we're building schools and we're building firehouses in Afghanistan, and we're not building them. We have the threat of closing them here in Queens County, and that should not be happening. We need to also incubate small businesses, make sure the government offers low-interest loans and job and workforce training programs, where people who may not speak English well as a second language have the opportunity to take English second language classes. My time is up. But I firmly believe that we need to invest in our greatest resource, and that is our people. Through education and job training programs, we need to put people back to work.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowley. Mr. Langston, would you be so kind as to continue along this thought?
Sure. So ton of topics: jobs, the economy, trade, and our tax system. And so let me try to tackle them within 2 minutes. In terms of jobs, I mean, the president has a plan that I think that we should embrace. It involves fixing our crumbling infrastructure through an infrastructure bank where we leverage a certain amount of public money investing in infrastructure and get the private sector to invest even more. It's something that we're doing in New York State, and it's something that will put people to work and fix our crumbling bridges, tunnels, and roads. We need to extend credit to small businesses that want it. Right now, we're letting the major banks on Wall Street borrow money from the taxpayers at virtually 0% interest, and they're not lending it out to small businesses. The president has a plan to increase the amount of money that the Small Business Administration can loan to small businesses, and that's something that we need to do. In terms of the broader economy, I mean, look, the most important thing that we could do to reform our economy and make sure that it continues to grow is to finish the job of reforming Wall Street, which is something that we didn't do after the 2008 meltdown. A few weeks ago, I was standing outside of J.P. Morgan with Ed Koch, who's endorsing me, talking about here we are 4 years after the meltdown, and we still have the possibility that a giant financial, too-big-to-fail company that is floated on taxpayer dollars and our deposits has the possibility to lose $2, $3, $4 billion, and if it fails, put our whole economy at risk, just as Lehman Brothers did when it failed in 2008. So let's reform Wall Street. In terms of trade, we are signing all these free trade agreements with other countries, but they're not fair trade agreements. We are allowing other countries that have lower wage standards, lower labor standards, that allow discrimination. Look at Foxconn in China. There would be plenty of American companies that would like to be able to manufacture iPads and iPods, but they can't compete with a company like Foxconn, so that's why Apple sends that business overseas.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Ming, would you be so kind?
This is basically a premise that I believe that has made America what it is today, and that I believe we've strayed away from, and we need to head back. The premise of being made in America so that our families can make it in America. And that's something that, as a daughter of immigrants, someone who was born and raised in Queens, I believe strongly in. I also agree with our president about the need to improve our infrastructure, our roads, bridges, and highways, but also our mass transit. Some of the most number of calls that we receive in our office are phone calls from constituents complaining about poor and inconsistent bus service and train service on the weekends. And that's something that, representing an area, Flushing, which is the third busiest intersection in all of New York City, is something that I care deeply about. I believe that it will improve our transportation system, allow families to get around, get to and from work, and also to bring jobs back to Queens. And talk about tax incentives. This is something that I actually put in my campaign literature that you probably are continuously receiving at home, and it will end soon. But I put it in there because I want you to hold me to it. There are a lot of corporations. Something that I would work on to support and to initiate is for local and domestic corporations, American corporations, to get tax incentives for keeping jobs here in America and making goods in America. Queens was home to a lot of manufacturing and warehouses, and we want to make sure that we keep companies here and local. We want to make sure, and maybe if we have to add industries, make Queens more of a technological hub. Make sure that our private corporations, our universities and hospitals invest in Queens jobs. And, Senator Lampkin mentions Apple. There was a New York Times article, you can look it up online recently, that talked, a very long article that talked about how Apple gets away with so many of tax profits not being taxed.
Thank you very much. Dr. Mitterman, would you be so kind to share your thoughts on this topic with us?
Thank you. First of all, bottom line is we've got to jumpstart the economy. We've got to get people back to work. We've got to start rebuilding our aging infrastructure. That's when we've got to spend our money, repairing and replacing the country's bridges, tunnels, and roads. We've got to ease access to loans to our small businesses. Banks are not into giving money to our homegrown entrepreneurs. We have to invest in real alternatives to fossil fuels and build up that industry while preserving the environment. Very interestingly, we talked about manufacturing outside and bringing it in. How do you like the fact that in the oil industry, not only do we give them subsidies, not only are they producing oil here in the United States, what happens if I tell you they're shipping it out and collecting more money? They're taking our oil and shipping it out. We have to provide regulatory relief for small business owners who are the backbone of our American employment. We have to provide incentives for companies that build new or expand their factories and the workforce here in the United States. Simply, just bringing up in terms of the medical field, the world manufacturing, the world pharmaceutical industry receives about 80 to 90% of their profits from the United States. We're subsidizing everybody else's health care. People don't realize this. We are subsidizing the world's health care. That's why they can afford it. We can't. We're paying 90% of their profits. Recently, in fact, not only is that, but the drugs that we're manufacturing, important drugs like Viaxin, which was actually on a big shortage. We couldn't even get Viaxin. It's a popular product. Why? Because it's made outside the United States, India, China. We have no control. The FDA can't look at it and say, all right, there's 3 manufacturing plants, one in India, one in China. All right, we're having problems in the China plant. We've got to talk to India about manufacturing more Viaxin or more of a heart medication. We have no control. If, God forbid, there's a World War III, we will not have the facility to manufacture our antibiotics in this country.
Thank you very much. All right.